The observer. War had always been something I studied from a safe distance. My people abandoned it long before I was born, choosing treaties and deterrence over bloodshed. To us, violence was wasteful, primitive, the mark of a species yet to outgrow its instincts. That belief stayed with me when I was assigned to the humans. I assumed I would be observing creatures ruled by impulse, fighting like cornered animals in the mud. On the first day I met them, they confounded me. The squad greeted me with wide grins, some extending their hands, an odd custom I had studied but never practiced. Their armor was battered and scarred, but decorated with painted symbols, scratched words, and tiny charms tied to straps. Soldiers of my people kept their gear spotless and uniform, stripped of all individuality. To see these humans treat their weapons and armor as both tool and canvas unsettled me. They called me Doc, though I was no physician. It was not meant as mockery, only shorthand, a way to pull me into their circle. "Stick close, Doc," said one, a broad-shouldered man named Alvarez. "We'll keep you breathing." He winked, as if we were not marching to a perimeter already under siege. I tried to remain detached, logging every detail into my datapad. My initial notes were damning: chaotic, undisciplined, overly social. They joked constantly, even while fortifying defenses. They sang as they worked, their voices rising above the rumble of distant artillery. In my culture, silence was discipline. To them, noise seemed to be a shield against despair. The perimeter itself was little more than earthworks, barricades of scavenged metal, and hastily assembled gun emplacements. Smoke from burning supply depots hung heavy in the sky. The humans threw themselves into the work of strengthening the line with an intensity one found exhausting to watch. They dug trenches, set mines, and carried crates until their arms trembled, yet still they laughed, shouted, and teased one another. At first, I stood apart, unwilling to sully my uniform or lower myself to manual labor. Sergeant Keller, their leader, noticed immediately. "You're making us nervous, Doc," he said, voice like gravel. "Grab a shovel, or get out of the way." It was not a suggestion. I obeyed. My hands blistered quickly, my back ached, and dirt stained my ceremonial uniform. The humans laughed at my clumsy efforts, but not cruelly. One handed me a pair of worn gloves. "Here," she said simply, before returning to work. That night, as we crowded around a portable heater, they told stories. Not of tactics or strategy, but of families waiting for them, of homeworlds far away, of comrades lost in other battles. Their voices lowered when they spoke of the dead, but they did not weep. Instead, they remembered them with humor, sharing moments of joy as if to keep those memories alive. I realized, for the first time, that their laughter was not ignorance of danger. It was defiance. And still, I thought them reckless, foolish, primitive. I did not yet understand. The enemy would teach me. Baptism of fire. The first attack came at dawn. The sky was a bruised gray when the perimeter sensors shrieked their warning. I had been writing a report in the dim light of a heater, recording my thoughts on human inefficiency. My words had not yet cooled on the screen when the horizon erupted in fire. The enemy poured from the smoke like a living tide, towering insectoid forms, armored in chitin, shrieking with alien hunger. Their numbers stretched farther than I could see. My instincts screamed at me to retreat, to hide, to survive. My legs locked, trembling. This was not a simulation, not a lecture hall diagram of military engagement. This was chaos, explosions thundering, gunfire rattling, soldiers shouting over the roar. And the humans. They ran toward it. Keller's voice cut through the madness like steel. Positions. Suppressive fire. His squad moved without hesitation, setting weapons, calling ranges, laying down a storm of bullets and plasma bolts that tore into the advancing swarm. Where I expected panic, I saw precision born of practice. Where I expected retreat, I saw defiance. I could not comprehend it. The enemy surged closer, shrieking as their bodies hit mines and dissolved in fire. A massive shape broke through the smoke, an armored brute, claws the length of my arms. It crashed through the barricade, scattering debris. I froze, certain I would die in that instant. Then Alvarez was there, hurling himself forward with nothing but a rifle and a curse. He fired point-blank, rounds punching into the beast's eyes, even as it swiped him aside like a toy. The impact shattered his arm, but he still laughed, as he dragged himself upright and kept shooting until the monster collapsed. It was madness. Glorious, terrifying madness. "Doc, move!" a soldier shouted, grabbing me by the harness and yanking me down into the trench just as shrapnel tore through the air where I had been standing. My heart pounded so hard I thought my chest would burst. My hands shook so violently I dropped my datapad, my precious record of observation. In that trench, shoulder to shoulder with humans, I felt fear unlike anything I had known. It was suffocating, all-consuming. Yet the humans did not let it paralyze them. Their faces were tight with the same terror I felt, but their hands were steady, their voices firm, their eyes unyielding. They were afraid, and still they fought. I watched a young soldier, barely more than a child, refuse evacuation after being struck by enemy fire. "I can still shoot," he gasped, blood staining his armor. He propped himself against the barricade, rifle steady, defiance burning in his eyes. I realized then, courage was not the absence of fear. Courage was carrying fear into battle and making it serve you. The enemy broke off after an hour, leaving the field littered with smoking carcasses. The perimeter still held. The humans cheered weakly, exhaustion painted across their faces. I sat in the mud, trembling, unable to write a single word. For the first time in my life, I understood what it meant to be truly afraid. And the humans had shown me how to fight anyway. The turning point. The second assault came before we had time to breathe. We had barely patched the barricades when the sky burned again, streaks of enemy artillery arcing down. The ground shook with each impact. Smoke rolled across the trenches, thick and choking. I crouched low, clutching the unfamiliar rifle they had pressed into my hands. It felt alien against my skin, though I was the alien here. The humans were exhausted, but not broken. They moved with grim purpose, their banter now sharper, thinner, yet still present. "Alvarez, keep that arm in a sling or I'll staple it shut myself," Keller barked, and Alvarez grinned despite the pain. The others laughed, quick and brittle, but enough to keep the fear at bay. I, however, was drowning in fear. Every shriek of the approaching swarm drove it deeper into me. I could taste it, metallic and bitter, clogging my throat. My kind were not bred for this. We were scholars, planners, architects of strategy. We had forgotten how to fight in the mud, face to face with death. Then I saw something that shattered me. A breach opened on the left flank, enemy shock beasts pouring through, their claws flashing. The line began to falter. Soldiers fell back, dragging the wounded. For a heartbeat, it looked as though the entire defense would collapse. And in that moment, a choice pressed against me. Every instinct urged me to run, to burrow into safety, to survive. But I saw the humans refusing to yield. They were afraid. I could see it in their eyes, hear it in their ragged voices, but they fought anyway. They fought for one another, for the wounded, for the line itself. Without thinking, I surged to my feet. My voice cracked through the comms in my own tongue, barking coordinates and orders. I had studied tactics my whole life, cold theory, distant models, and now, for the first time, I wielded it in the fire of battle. "Concentrate fire. Draw them into the mines," I shouted, my translator scrambling to keep up. The humans listened. They pivoted, shifted fields of fire, and the swarm stumbled straight into the traps we had laid hours before. Explosions tore the beasts apart. The humans roared in triumph, rallying around that moment of victory. Keller's voice thundered approval. "Nice work, Doc. Keep calling it." I was shaking, not just with fear, but with something fiercer, resolve. For the first time, I understood why they trusted chaos, because it allowed them to improvise, to adapt, to turn certain defeat into a chance at survival. My calculations, their courage, it was a union neither of us could have forged alone. By the time the second wave faltered and broke, I was caked in mud, throat raw from shouting, my rifle empty. I had fought. Not well, not bravely in the way they did, but I had stood beside them, and that mattered. As the smoke cleared, the humans clapped my shoulders, grinning despite their wounds. "Told you you'd fit in, Doc," Alvarez said. For the first time in my life, I felt pride in something beyond survival. And with it came the sharp edge of terror, not of death, but of losing these comrades I had come to stand beside. That was fear. Real fear. What fear truly is. The battlefield was quiet at last. Not silent, never silent, but quiet enough that the ringing in my ears was louder than the distant echoes of retreating enemies. Smoke drifted in lazy spirals above shattered barricades. The mud was blackened with fire and blood. The humans slumped where they stood, too tired even to cheer. We had survived. Barely. The cost was written in the still forms laid out along the trench. Alvarez among them. His grin would never return, his easy jokes forever silenced. Others too, faces I had only just learned, now gone. I knelt beside them, struggling to breathe. My people had taught me to value life as data points, population statistics, a calculation of loss against outcome. But here, standing in the aftermath, I could not see numbers. I saw names. I saw laughter. I saw sacrifice. The humans gathered, forming a circle around the fallen. Keller's voice, always so hard, softened as he spoke. They held the line. They gave us the ground to stand on. We'll remember them, always. Then silence. Heads bowed. Some touched tokens hanging from their armor, others simply stood with fists clenched. No ritual from my culture could match the rawness of that moment. They looked at me, waiting. I realized they expected me to speak. Me, the outsider, the observer. My throat tightened, but I forced words past it. In my people's tongue, I said slowly, there is a phrase. Kethren Vero. It means, to live is to be carried by those who came before. Your comrades carry you still. And now, I carry them too. The humans nodded, eyes glistening, and I knew I had spoken true. As the night deepened, I sat apart, staring at the fire's glow. Fear pressed against me, sharper than during the battle itself. Not the fear of dying, I had made peace with that, but the fear of failing these humans, of not being worthy of the trust they had shown me. That was what I had never understood until now. My people had erased fear from our lives, treating it as a weakness. But beside humans, I had learned its true shape. Fear was not cowardice. Fear was the weight of love, of loyalty, of bonds strong enough to break you if lost. It was the sharp reminder of what mattered. The humans fought not because they were fearless, but because they feared losing each other more than they feared death. When the next dawn broke, the smoke lifted and the sun touched the ruined perimeter. The humans began to rebuild again, already laughing in the shadows of grief. And I, alien scholar, no longer felt like an observer. I felt like a soldier, standing beside them, afraid, and stronger for it. Standing beside humans in combat had taught me what fear truly is, and what courage truly means.